As many of you know, I'm often using the metaphor of the ocean and the waves, and I wanted to play with that metaphor a little bit this morning. And I was thinking about this the other day, and thinking about our ordinary search for whatever it is we may be searching for. Still, um, could go by a lot of different names, right? And just an ordinary kind of not necessarily spiritual context, we could just be searching for a sense of fulfillment, a sense of well-being, right? A sense of happiness, um, and then I think kind of the similar search, then can take on various spiritual kind of overtones and get framed in other ways, like searching for oneness, for freedom, for awakening, enlightenment, and so on. And in that context of our search, um, I wanted to talk about two kind of ways of thinking, two sort of broad perspectives. One I call um, wave world, and the other I'm going to call water world. Okay. So in wave world, we experience all these different waves, right? Each moment unique. Um, Unique in terms of its seeming qualities and flavors and textures, right? And it's happening right now, right? Like you could say each momentary perception is distinct, maybe subtly so, but right. And we encounter this all the time. This is what we're encountering, this constant, ceaseless sort of diversity, the waves of life seem to be here. And, um, and in wave world, um, it seems as if we're able to characterize the waves, maybe not all of them, but this kind of mechanism of consciousness or whatever that's rendering the wave. Even that there are waves is its own kind of rendering, right? Like that describing of the moment. And based on how things are showing up, distinctive, differentiated, unique, each wave of experience. Out of that tends to emerge this hierarchy of it could be a hierarchy of basically, very basically, this is better than that, right? This is preferable to that. This is richer than that. This is fuller than that. This is more alive than that, and on and on and on and on it goes. That. So it's not just that we're making distinctions that this is distinct from that. This moment is distinct from that moment, but this moment is better than that moment, right? Anyone know what I'm talking about? And uh, And so in that context of what I'm calling wave world, it's like our tendency is, and we all know this intimately, is to look for what we're looking for in particular waves. And then the waves that we don't associate with what we're looking for, we're trying to minimize those waves. We're trying to make them go away or avoid them altogether or just do what we can to. I mean, why else are we trying to control experience? Why else are we trying to get to some other experience than the one that's here right now? Well, that's the essence of wave world is looking for something else than this, right? I mean, it could be this wave, whatever I'm looking for. Again, happiness, fulfillment, enlightenment, awakening, freedom. I mean, not to say this was the case for any of you, but if you thought that maybe it would be more present on the Zoom meeting, what you're looking for. Well, that's the fantasy that we all, each in our own ways, kind of suffer from, that it's somewhere else, it's in some other wave, right? And that's what I mean by the hierarchy. Not just making distinctions, but a sense of, hmm, right, the hierarchy. This is more meaningful than that. Wow, that was a really meaningful moment. It's just, it's not that we have to uh, get rid of that hierarchy per se. I mean, it has its own place, you know. Um, like this was a better meal than the last meal I had, you know. I mean, that's there. That's just part of the human experience. An encounter with someone just, you know, was more enjoyable than another encounter. So that's all there again, part of living this life, right? Wave world. And the problem is that so much of what we experience that we could put in the category of some version of human suffering, either, you know, relatively like, you know, all the gradations of it we can experience. Um, in one very real sense, come from this experience of the waves not being the waves that we want to be happening, right? And so then we feel if we can't get the waves that we want, that we associate with fill in the blank, well-being, freedom, and so on, then what? We can feel frustrated, we can feel annoyed, we can feel irritated, we can feel um, anxious about what waves might be coming. We can feel, right? We can feel angry about waves that happened that we wished hadn't happened. We can feel, um, and on it goes, right? We can feel that something's lacking when the waves that are happening are not what we think are the waves that we want to be happening, right? So, so much of our suffering really comes out of that perspective. It's not only suffering, because there's also lots of enjoyment that can occur within that world, wave world, of course. So that's wave world in a nutshell, and we all know it quite well. And then there's water world. And water world is the discovery that all of the waves are made of the same thing, all of them. Just like in the ocean. I mean, it's I apologize for always using it, but it's just so somehow beautifully and concretely illustrates what I'm talking about all the time, right? Because it highlights the paradox. Like there's all these distinctive waves. You know, sometimes the waves of your life are very easeful. You might describe them just like the ocean, you know, just a gentle, the lapping of the waves onto the shore. And sometimes they're just these monstrous, wild, crazy um, waves that wreak havoc, right? Cause flooding and destruction. I live near the coast here in California. I mean, very near. And yeah, I mean, we've had a fair amount of that the last couple of winters of just big, massive storms creating a lot of damage. And there's that, right? And, but looking out at an ocean and seeing the different waves, the different types of waves that can be produced in any given moment or in any given day, we can look and see the differences, the uniqueness of these things we're calling the forms of life, the waves of being generated by the ocean. And then we can look again, like we're going to do right now, and see that they're all made of the same thing. They are all water. They're all water. All of them. They're equal. They're all both the ocean waves to the metaphor and the experiential waves. They're all here. They're all present. Every wave is, right? And they're equally here and they're equally present. A gentle, easeful wave is no more or less present than a giant tidal wave. They have different, in terms of their presentation, they have different, shall we say, strength and intensity and volume, but their presence is the same. That's water world. Their aliveness is the same. Their isness is the same. That's the water. That's water world. There's no hierarchy. There's no better or worse, higher or lower, more or less present, more or less awake, more free. There's none of that because there's this equalness, the water, the watery nature of every wave, its liveliness, its presence. And the thing about wave world as it relates to our search for whatever we're searching for is that it's just a setup, it's all, I mean, it's a setup in the sense that you're going to have it sometimes if we're equating what we're searching for, if we believe it's found in particular versions of reality and not others. In other words, if it's more present in particular waves and then less present in other waves, or maybe totally absent in other waves, well, we're screwed from the standpoint of finding what we're looking for. Because then we're going to have this experience of like, I've got it, and then it's gone away. Because what the nature of the waves is they come and they go. They're unpredictable, they're uncontrollable, and they're all different, right? So, and again, we know this very intimately. So I know when I speak about these things to my grad students, um, and I talk about, experienced wave world is completely unstable, right? Like you can't hold on to the moment. It's so slippery, it's so unstable. And so if we're banking on that world to find what we're looking for, like in particular ways, well, we're just, it's not going to work, and it doesn't work because there's no stability. So we're looking for stability, we're looking for security, but we're looking in the wrong place. We're looking in that which is inherently unstable and insecure from the standpoint of its dynamic, ever-changing nature, its ungraspable nature. So can we find the stability that we seem to long for? Yes, we can find it in water world. Water world is what everything is, the life that everything is. And that's completely stable. This moment is, no matter what it looks like. That's its stability, right? That's water world. The ocean is, no matter what waves it's producing. And feel that. Feel how unconditioned water world is, the presence of everything, right? Unbreakable. Like your thoughts don't determine it, right? Doesn't matter what you're thinking. Just like let that sink in for a minute. It does not matter what you're thinking this is. You see? That's to me what is meant when people say thought doesn't touch this. It's not like there's two things. There's this thing that thought can never touch. The thought is the one thing, but the one thing remains the one thing, remains this presence, whatever you want to call it. no matter how it's moving, no matter how the waves are unfolding, no matter how thought or feeling or sensation or circumstance is unfolding. That's water world, the water in every wave. And I've been having, I don't know, it's just kind of how it's happened recently. I've been having a number of conversations with people related to psychedelic experiences. Sorry, I just saw this message from Sean in the chat. Water is reality and the waves are the other things happening. No, the waves are water. There's not two things, there's one thing, right? Just like an ocean. It's not like there's water and then there's waves. I'm highlighting these two perspectives. The perspective of the wave perspective is focused on all the different waves. The water perspective is just recognizing all the waves are the same and that the water is not affected by the waves. But 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 the thing to get is that there's no dichotomy, that the waves are made of water. So it's not like a separate reality that's somehow unconditioned by the waves. It's like, no, the water, and that's why, again, it's just such a beautiful metaphor. Like life is unaffected by how it's appearing because, right, it doesn't matter how it's appearing. Which is why you don't have to have a different experience than the one that you're having to find the thing that you're looking for, the ground of being, or the freedom, or the God, the divinity, because it's everything. It's the water, it's water world. It's this, and this, and this, and this. Anyway, just to come back to what I was starting to talk about, these conversations I've been having with several people and some individual sessions and on a retreat that I recently did, and some of my graduate students, just been like this theme about psychedelic experiences. It came up over dinner last night with some friends, and it can feel, and I've had this experience many, many decades ago now, but and other people I know have had this experience, that it feels like, there's this kind of significant sort of breakthrough with the use of certain of these substances, and some of the insight arises. And I'm not denying such experiences and their validity, if you will, and their impact and their transformative nature. Don't get me wrong. But from my standpoint, and I've said this many times before, the deepest insight we could ever have is that all of our experiences are it, not certain special ones that we've elevated as being special and talk about as special moments of whatever awakening or no, every moment is the moment of awakening. And from my standpoint, if that's not recognized, then I mean, you can it's not to say that your experience isn't meaningful. I don't mean that, but that's the thing to see, right? 'Cause otherwise, you're back in wave world. Well, that was an amazing wave. You see? And then you're back in your everyday ho-hum normal life, quote unquote. And what happened? What happened to that special wave I was experiencing on the retreat or under the influence of a substance or whatever, in the presence of some teacher you think can grant such experiences? I don't care what the source of it is. No, there is no more special experience. They are all equal in their divinity. That's water world. I mean, everything is, right? The ground of being is not a particular state. It's not a special experience. I mean, it is. The specialness of it is that it's the only thing that exists. It's the ground of being. It just happens to show up as everything. And that's when our understanding is recognized to be bulletproof. Like it doesn't depend upon anything. That's the real freedom. The real freedom is that you don't have to have another experience than the one that's here. That's freedom. The ground of being, if you want to use that word, I love it, that phrase, is what's here right now. You see? The moment is. And it's the ground in the sense of it's the very basis of everything, is the existence of it, right? That's the ground of it. It's a curious ground because you can't get to the bottom of what it is. It's here, it's the ground of being, but you can't tell what it is. It's fathomless, it's groundless, but it's here. It's concretely here in the moment. And it's always concretely here, no matter what it looks like. Again, that's its unconditioned nature. That's water world. Wave world is, well, it's present when certain waves are present, but water world is always here. And water world dances as wave world. It includes that world that we all know because it includes everything.